Hello everyone, welcome to this episode number 14 of the CGVinny's Coffee Break. First of all, we are in 2024, so I want to wish you a happy new year. I hope all your wish and project became true and successful. And I want to thank you also for all the support in 2023. I made something like more than 50 plus live streams, either in French, Spanish or English, and I received lots of positive feedback around this. So thanks again, and well, let's continue in 2024. Before to start, if you look at the chat, so let me share the view right now. Like that. I just added a link about a Telegram group that I created, which gathers some of tutorials about Substance 3D that I find interesting. It's not only mine, there is mine of course, but when I find one which is interesting online, I try to share it here. So at the pace of one or twice a day. Some days there is nothing, some days there is two, but most of the day there is one link. This is not a discussion place. It's not open to discussion. I will just share links because I thought this way I'm making sure you are not spammed all day long by notification. And if you want to chat about Substance 3D, we do have the Discord server, which is excellent for that. And you can even find some languages dedicated channels. So today, what are we going to see? So first of all, once again, in the chat, you can ask me at any time whatever you want. You can say hi. You can tell me where you are watching from. I'm always interested to know that. There is Alex, who is in the chat, as always. Salut Alex. Alex is French, so we can speak French with him. And today, what are we going to see? We are going to focus on a topic which is... I received many questions and many people told me it would be great if you do a content about it. So I say, well, maybe we can make a live stream. And this is the anchor points. This is a feature from Substance 3D Painter, which is extremely powerful, yet there are many people who are a bit afraid of using it, because at first it's true that it's not the most obvious one, but once you know how it works, you will see that it's super powerful and super useful. So first of all, I'm going to share my desktop and we are going to jump into it. So here it is in Substance 3D Painter. I am with Matt. Happy New Year, Matt. I hope you had a nice vacations. On my side, it was great. So what are anchor points? This is a feature where sometimes you want to use a content multiple times. Meaning, for example, you are creating a mask or something like that, and this mask would be great to control different aspects of your material. That's where, instead of duplicating the mask and adjusting each time, and if you want to change one mask, you have to change the others, etc. Well, you are going to use anchor points to create a reference point. That's what it is. An anchor point is a reference point that you can then call on different places on your layer stack. There are some rules to respect, and the logic is sometimes the way around from an artistic point of view, but from the way it's defined, it makes sense as well. So let's dive into it and make a first example. To do this, I'm going to use first a metal. Let's find one from here, an easy one, metal, okay, metal foil, for example. Like this one, I'm just going to see if I can diminish the grain density. Something like that, and the fold density as well. Don't want that something that strong. Okay, this one. Okay, so let's say this is my base material. We are going to say that matte is made of metal, and this metal has been painted. But sadly, by the time there is some defect on it, and we want to replicate that. So this is pretty easy to do at first, but if you want to add some more specific details, you will see that anchor points are going to be extremely useful. So here is my base material, which is a metal. On top of that, so let me remove this. Metal foil is good. I'm going to add a new fill layer, which will be my painting. I could use for paint here. I think there are some as well. Yeah, I can find some, but let's just use a regular fill layer that I'm going to call painting. Like that. Okay. And I'm going to change the color, something like this, whatever you want. And now I want to simulate the damage made by the weathering, the time, etc. To this, I could build, there is some ways you can add a black mask, use a mask editor, etc. But this is not the point of this tutorial. So I'm directly going to the smart masks that we do have here. And I'm going to choose one of these masks. I saw some people have just arrived in the live stream, so don't hesitate to say hi in the chat. It's always cool to know who is here. So let's look and take something like on the edges. So okay, so edge strong like this could be great. I'm going to take this one. There is maybe more details. So let's take this, and when I drag and drop, now you see this is new in the latest version of Painter. You see where you can drop it. That's even clearer. So I'm going to do like that. And now you see that we have the mask. For what I want to do, it's upside down because I want, of course, the painting to get away on the edges to reveal the metal underneath. This is the way around, but not a big deal. I'm just going to go here. And I'm going to invert this mask. So this is the first option, like this. So here I could play with the balance, change some stuff, but I'm going to be quite, let's say, lazy on that. And let's say I'm happy with that. Okay, this is great. And if you would have just to do this, maybe just let me add a bit of volume here, changing the height. So the paint looks on top of the metal. So we could, once again, improve that, but for the example, it's fine. So if you would just do this, that would be enough and you wouldn't need anchor point. But let's say that what I want to do is, okay, the weather has used that, but maybe also it has created some, created some rust just on the edges of where the painting is going over, is going away. So I could duplicate this mask. So if I want to visualize the mask, I can do alt click like that. I could take this mask, duplicate it, and try to make something here. I could also say, okay, let's make another more complex material, which in Substance 3D Designer, for example, which will handle this. That's a possibility. But when I am within Substance 3D Painter, this is where it makes sense to use anchor points. Why? Because here, this could be my starting point. I know that I want the paint to go over here, and I know that I want the rust to follow the edges of this mask, which means that if this mask is changing, I would like also the new edges that will be created to change as well. That's why I'm going to use this as a reference, so it will stay dynamic. So to do this, how to create an anchor point? There is two ways, it's easy. You can create it on a material, on a mask, on a group. So this is not, you can create it everywhere. In my case, the resource I'm interested in is the mask. So I can either right click on the mask, look at the bottom of the option, and you have here, I don't know if you see it well, and let me do this. You have add anchor point. Another solution is here, you have like the magic one. If you click on it and you go down, you have the anchor point. So let's do this way. So I added this anchor point, and how you see that it inherit a name, which is the name of my layer. And as it's a mask, it's adding a mask. In my case, I'm going to change the name and say damage reference, for example. So it's clear what it is. In this example, I won't use as many that much anchor points, so it should be fine. But once again, it's always good to name your your layers and mask and reference properly. So sorry, I'm going to change that. There is, I will put my watch like this, so I'm not, no one is disturbing me. So sorry about that. So now I want to add some rust. So how to do that? I'm going to go here, look for rust. And in Rust, if I go to material, I have this one that I'm going to use. So let me put that on top. And what I can do now first is I want to start from that mask. So how to call this? So the way to do that, if you add a mask, is to say, okay, let's add a black mask. It could be a white one, it's not a big deal. And here, if you look at the mask, which is there, you see that you have few options, but by default the mask is a painting layer. It's a painting like a painting layer. So I cannot go here and say, okay, let's add an anchor point reference. Let's call an anchor point because it has to be a fill layer or fill layer or fill mask, whatever it is. So to do this, first, what I'm going to do is click here and say I want to add a fill. So by default it's gray, but you can change the color to mask and mask everything. But what is interesting is this. If I click here, now in the side of the resources, you see that you have anchor point, which is available, and if you click on it, you see that you have the damage reference, and I see that I'm just going to change the name like that. And now, well, you see that we have the mask which has been created. It's exactly the same. So the content which is available at this point in this anchor point, this one, is just called here. So when I do click, I visualize, and you see that they are exactly the same. So you could say, okay, maybe it's useless, but no, because what I'm going to do here in my fill layer with my reference, it's just a starting point, and I'm going to, well, change a bit the content to adapt it to my need. So what I want to do, as I say, is I want my mask here to be like a line which will reveal the rest just at the edges here. So first of all, if I look here, you see that to me it's kind of upside down. So first thing I'm going to do, maybe I will change later on, but we'll see. You see that when I have a fill layer, I have a level here. So I'm going to invert. So now the rust is here, but once again, I want to diminish the impact. So what I'm going to do, where I'm going to put myself like this and see how to play to get like a white line just here, and the rest will be black. So to do that, I'm going first to use some filters. So the first one I'm going to use is a blur filter, like blur, like this. I'm going to blur, and I'm going to blur quite a lot like that. And then I'm going to put on top of that another filter. I'm going to use a slope blur, which is going to give this effect, but I don't want it to be that strong. So I'm going to divide. I have an intensity divider. And maybe, you know what, for now, I'm going to remove it. I'm just going first to try to subtract the previous fill layer here from that. So I get a new zone. So to do that, well, I'm going to create another anchor point. Another fill layer that will call the same anchor point. So I'm going here, anchor point, it's there. So by default, it's get on top of it. But what I'm going to do now is to change the blending mode to get something that I like. So I'm just going to go like that. And here, this is something that I would want, for example, because I have between both. I may play a bit with that. I'm going to look if there is a better option, but multiply seems quite efficient. Multiply, darken, This one I like, but it's upside down, of course. But let's see if I invert, it won't work. But if I invert the full result, it may be something that makes sense for me. So this is the difference. This one could work. This one as well. What I can do is take this one, for example, and then add a level on top of that and see if we can reinforce. If I want to get an idea, of course, I get back to material. You see that we see that, but not as much as I can. But if I add a level on top of this, we are going to push that and now start to appear. What we want to do is here, the transition is too smooth. So I'm going to go back. Let's see if I won't remove my blur, but here I will make what I did, like putting maybe a filter, slope, blur. Okay, and I get something which is way more interesting. So like this, diminish a bit, and maybe another level just to make this more contrasting. Even a contrast, if I do use a filter, maybe I have a contrast one, I think I do. Yeah, contrast like that, and let's increase the contrast. Oh, and the luminosity, it's too violent to me. No, I will get more control with the level, I think. So let's go back here, level, and see how it goes. Okay, yes. Okay, so let's say that I'm happy with that. I could tweak a bit more if I want, like the values, like that, but not that bad. I could add some more stuff to get something a bit more organic, but that's not the point. The point now is that with one reference, I control two kind of content, this mask and this mask, and they are all based is what has been generated below. So this is a good moment to make things a bit clearer about how it works. So the first thing to understand, when I'm creating an anchor point, it will just make like a snapshot of what has been creating until now, in that case, in this mask, which means that if I'm adding changes after this anchor point, sorry, which means when we say after, it means above in the layer stack. Like let's say, for example, I'm here and I want to add a paint layer. Let's add a paint layer here, and I'm painting that. You see that it does not affect the rest. Why? Because it's not taken in account here. It has been created after the creation. Why? Because you have to understand that Painter has a way to work, which is this. It reads the layers from top to bottom. So in that case, it will first read, let me zoom a bit, the metal foil. Once it has read the metal foil, it will read this paint layer and everything that is generated. So it will say, okay, let's look at the blue, let's look at the mask, let's look at the different step in the mask. Oh, there is an anchor point which is created. Okay, then there is a paint layer, a paint modifier after that. And then it says, okay, let's see how it blends using this mask, etc. Then it will go up, etc., etc. So this bottom to top way is very important to understand. That's why here, as it's created after, it's not visible. If I move that below, now it's visible. Now you see that it's taken in account. Why? Because it will say, okay, let's use this curvature to generate a mask. Then let's take in account what has been painted in this painting modifier. And from that, let's create a snapshot, meaning an anchor point that we may or may not use later on. And later on is on top, which means that once again, you cannot call you cannot call an anchor point which has not been declared yet, which means that it has to be on top in the layer stack. Let's say I take this, for example, I'm going to do Control D. If I put it below here, and I'm hiding that, you see that you don't see anything. Why? Because if you look here, there may be even a mistake. I have my, let me check here, fill layer, and you see, oh, there is an error. Why? Because you are trying to call something that does not exist yet. Once again, it's read from bottom to top. This is very important. Once you have understood this, you understand how it works. So in my case, I'm going to remove that for now. I'm going to show that again. So really important. First, the anchor point is taking in account the content which has been created before, meaning below, in the same, in that case, in this mask, and it can be called only by content which is above, which means which comes after in the way Painter is reading stuff. So I hope it makes sense. Once again, if you have questions, there is the chat, so don't hesitate. But if you understand that, it makes sense. This is a bit confusing for people at first when they discover anchor point, because this way of organizing stuff, I would say, is really a developer programmer way, meaning that, for example, when you do some code, you first declare a variable, like for example, let's say it's called damage reference, that you are going to call afterwards. Meanwhile, an artist generally is painting and he's doing, for example, his metal, he's doing his damage, and afterwards he says, oh cool, maybe I would add some stuff around, and he said, okay, how can I link that? But the thing is, you have to plan ahead, even if you can add the anchor point, but you have to go back in your process and say, okay, where is the good reference in my layer stack to start from? In my case, this is this mask here. Oh, sorry, this mask. But you have to find the right base location. Where does it start, and where do I want to take my reference from? And then from that, you can first create your anchor point and then call it wherever you want. So I hope it makes sense for you. Now, there is some stuff also that you can do. Just let me check something first. I had a... Okay. Another thing. So this is a way, once again, to declare and call it. So don't forget that to call the content of an anchor point, it has to use a fill layer content or a fill layer content. It cannot be in a paint layer. That's really important, because if not, you are going to look for something that does not exist. For example, if I'm creating a paint layer here, I put it on top. I don't think if I go to the alpha, you see I don't have the content, because once again, the stencil, maybe it's possible, not even. No. And base color. So in paint anything where you can paint, you cannot call an anchor point. This is really fill layer. So when you are using a mask, don't forget first to put a fill layer. That said, there is another way that we are going to see now. So let's go here, and I'm going to do things a bit differently now. So I'm going to remove my paint layer, and let's imagine that now I want to add my logo on top of that, and of course I'd like my logo to take in account all this damage. So how could I do that? There is different ways. So let me first, we're going to remove this. I'm going to remove the rest from now. Actually, I could leave it. I'm going to leave it, and then we are going to create another anchor point. What I'm going to remove is just this effect. I'm going to find another one. Or I'm going to create another one. I'm going to use on purpose a generator, so that generates a specific content, and I'm going to use a mask. Did I write something? Okay, mask builder or mask editor. Mask editor is more recent, so I prefer that. And I'm going to put it below here. So it's taken in account also by the rust above. So in my mask editor, I'm going to change some stuff. Maybe I'm going to hide that for now. I'm going to change the contrast first, like that. The balance to get something that fits better. Maybe I will add some details like a grunge map. I'm doing it really quickly because that's not the point of this tutorial. But here I'm adding a texture that I'm going to apply on top of it, so it gives something like that, for example. This is something maybe one day we'll make another tutorial to see how to make your own mask, smart mask, etc. But for now, that's what I have. I'm quite happy with that. Maybe let's remove that and make something a bit more contrasty. Global balance. Okay, yeah, it's maybe better this way. Okay. So now that I have that, I want to add my logo. So to do this, there is different ways, but in my case, I'm going to add, I'm going to just make like a stamp within the metal. And so I'm going to use the height map. So I can paint it like this. And I'm going to use the height map, so I can only select this channel by maintaining the Alt key and clicking on this one, and you see that it will show leave the height channel activated but deactivate all the other ones. So it's Alt click on whatever you do, it will deactivate the other ones. And I'm going to paint. So to do this, I'm going to make sure I remove the alpha because I don't want my logo to be faded. And I'm going to look for logo, and I have mine, so let's use it. You see, you can say it's color, but this is an image with an alpha, so it will use the alpha in that case. I'm going to put this a bit bigger like that. Oh, maybe the music is a bit strong. No one told me. I'm just hearing it right now. Just let me tweak the music and do something like that. Hope it was you were able to hear. So doing that, I'm just clicking too big. Oops, sorry, like that. Okay, so this is my logo, which is great, but you may have noticed a first issue. Is first, I'm going to put that here. In the way I do it, first of all, it won't do anything. Why? Because my logo is on top. So whatever I do, it won't do anything. It's all good. Okay, it's all good. Yes, indeed. So Badiro, actually you can fight to decide if the music was too strong or not. But first thing first, I'd like this to be taken in account in the mask. So to do this, I'm going to create an anchor point from here on the logo. So at the bottom, I can create an anchor point. And I want to call this anchor point in my mask editor here. So let's remove that just to avoid confusion for now. And if you have followed correctly, at the moment, it will be impossible. Why? Because the anchor point is created on top. It's created technically after the mask, the paint layer here. So I'm going first to move that below the mask editor on this layer. And if you look at the mask editor, how can I use this height map to be driven and to take in account this effect? First of all, why it does not take it in account? Because, okay, I have sculpted that in the height map, nice, but this mask editor is driven by the mesh map that we have been baking previously. They are previously baked, but even if you use your own, by default, it's using the original mesh, which means like if I look at that, I have my information map, my curvature here, but of course, it does not use what I've just sculpted here. The logo is not taken in account. So how can we add this information to the mask editor or the mask builder. There is few other masks. I think there is Metal Edgeware where you can do this as well. So let's look at that. If you go into the option here and you scroll down, you will see that there is few options and steps to activate. First of all, if you look at the bottom, you see that you have a micro normal and a micro height slot. So that's what we are going to use. And maybe at some point we could change the name because it's not obvious. But what it lets you do is to say, okay, I'm clicking here, I have the anchor point, and I can refer the logo that I've been creating, and nothing will happen. So you say, okay, Vincent, you are useless once again. Well, it's because there is few steps to make sure you are making to make it work. First of all, here I'm referencing this layer, but by default, Painter doesn't know, okay, you are referencing this layer, but each layer contains 5 channels. So which channel do you want to refer here? So in my case, I don't want to refer the base color. I want to refer the height map. That's what we have been sculpting. So I'm going to activate that, and it still does not work. Why? Because you have to go down and you have to make sure that micro height is activated, and now it works. So it's a bit light. Luckily, you can improve that. In my case, I don't want it to be outside, but more inside. So if you go down micro height, you have the level, and if you invert, now it's like as if it was inside. So way better for me for what I want. You can still continue to improve, although you won't see a lot of difference. Honestly, it's so subtle. What you can do if you want to make it better, is at the point of the logo here, just before you can add a small blur maybe. So let's see. I'm testing with you. So add filters. Let's go here. Let's look for a blur. This one, and I'm going to make it a bit like that maybe, so we see a bit more. So this way, the great thing is, once again, you have this effect which is defined by this mask, but if you want to still add some details in the normal map or the height map, well, you can. And I can go back here to my paint layer and say, sorry, and paint, and you see it will add some more details, which is great in my opinion. So once again, if I deactivate the anchor point, funny enough, even if you deactivate, it keeps active. And I think if you hide it, you will lose the height information that are here, but you will keep the effect in the mask editor, which is nice. So it works for the height map, and also you can do it for normal maps. So that works, but I will show you how it works, and you will see that there is ways to organize the information, which will give the same result, but maybe it will be easier for you to use by the time. So first of all, you could say, I'm going to create another. So this is my height channel. Let's say that's where I add my details. I want to add another paint layer that I will call normal details, because you have two ways to sculpt in 3D is using either the normal or the height map. You have to know that the height map ultimately will generate also a normal map at export, but that's two ways you can use, which are really complementary. So let's go here, look at the back of matte like that. And here I want to sculpt the normals, I said. So first of all, I'm going to, you see, just as it's a sculpting, it's a paint layer that it keeps the painting values. It's not defined by default. So I'm going to define new ones, removing this. I'll click on normal to make sure I'm in normal mode, and I'm going to look at my textures here, and I have few normal that I can use to sculpt. So let's use, for example, let's see. Okay, this one. So to use it, you just drag and drop in the normal slot. I'm going to make this bigger, like that. Just do a click and, well, it works for the sculpting part, but once again, you don't have the effect here. So we're going to use more or less the same process. I'm going to create here an anchor point, which is called normal details. Perfect for me. Going back to my mask editor, which once again is above. I have my micro normal here, so I'm going to go to the resources, look at my anchor points. I have my normal details. It does not work by default. Why? Because first I have to say which information in this layer do you want to use. I want to use the normal map. And once again, you have to go here above, trying not to miss it. Attribute parameters. Where is it? Okay. Long menu. Here. Micro details, micro normal, true. And it works. This is a bit, so why do we have both? At first, I remember when we created a Substance Painter, people were saying, why are we using height map to do this? Well, one of the first technical reasons was it's easier to, you can rotate easily a height map, height information. Meanwhile, it was a bit trickier for normal map at first because you have to recalculate the vectors. So if I want to invert that, for example, that's a bit trickier. Why? Because you have to know, you cannot just invert. It does not work this way. At least it does not work this way for main information. For the red and green, you can invert them, that will work, but the blue, it does not, because it has to stay almost white. Fortunately, you can still play with that. So if I go down, I have my micro normal, I can go to the lever, and if you want to invert that, in theory, you have to go to the colors and invert the red, fine, and the green, and that's it. You don't touch the blue. even that, if you touch the blue, it would work, but it will be weird. But that works. I would say I'm not super satisfied, honestly, so I will leave it the way it was at first. So now that works. So I have a question from Bad Hero. Because of OpenGL and DirectX normal? No, because of the way normal works. Normal is a vector, so as you say, DirectX, the only difference between DirectX and OpenGL is that the green channel is inverted. I think for DirectX, white is showing down below. Meanwhile, in OpenGL, it's the contrary, or it's one or the other. But the thing is, it's the way it works. Basically, you have to think that the red is going to show the direction this way, where it's pointing on the horizontal axis, the green on the vertical axis, and the blue is doing something completely different. It's just the offset different of height compared to the high-res mesh. It's really subtle, and sometimes there is even some game engine, for example, which skip the blue channel to gain some space and reprocess based just on the colors. But anyway, just this to say that what is important is to make sure what you want to change is just if you want to invert, is why it's pointing out on you want to invert green and red only. So I hope it's clear. But generally, you don't play for this. It's way better to make your sculpting with a height map. You don't have this problem. Sorry, I don't even have water today. Really bad for a coffee break. So we have that. It works. I can go, for example, from my. I can go here. I can go to my normal details here. Continue to paint. Add a new one, maybe here. Paint again, etc. And it will update. This is great, but I think there is a better way to handle this, because right now you see that we have to handle using 2 anchor points. And once again, we want to be lazy, meaning we want to be as efficient as possible. That's the political correct way to say that we want to be lazy. And I don't want to manage too much stuff like that. So I'm going to do another way. There is two ways to say, let's create an anchor, well, three ways to say, let's create an anchor point differently. So I'm going to remove that, and you see that now I have an error here because it's tried to call an anchor point that does not exist anymore. We are going to fix that later on. So how can I make sure that I have just one anchor point that will control both the height and the normal map? First thing that I could have done at first is to put both information in one layer. Let's say we'll sculpt the height in the same layer and the normal map. That could have been possible, but let's imagine that the user just created these two layers, and you want to keep it because for some reason you want to keep the normal and height on different layers. There is another way. So the old way, let's say, was to say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go here, and I'm going to create a fill layer on top of that. This fill layer, I will just make sure I have the normal and height activated, and I'm going to change the blending mode to pass through. So you say I'm a base color, so what is he doing? But stick with me. So I'm going to pass through, and I'm going to right click and say apply this to all channel. So what does it mean? It means that this fill layer now inherit all the information which is below in the layer stack. The content is what is below. It's just taking, okay, I'm looking below, I'm taking this, and this is the content I will provide to Substance Painter. The good thing is, if I use that, I will say ref details, for example. I can create my anchor point on this one here. So it's called ref details, perfect. And now if I go to my mask editor here where I have my mistake, first I'm going to remove that. So you see that it removed the error here. And what I can do is go to, so everything is activated, it should work fine. I'm going here, anchor point, ref details, and I say use the normal map. Seems to work. Also, although it takes also the detail below, which is not what we want, but that's cool, good to know. We are going to fix that. Just then I'm going to go to the continue here, micro. Oh no, let me check. No, this is good. No, micro height, anchor point, ref details, height map, and works as well. Yeah, it's a bit okay. Inverted it. I think I could remove my blur for now, maybe. Okay, so we see that. Although you see that as it was here, my ref detail is taking all the details below. It also take my metal force, so I can put that above, so I won't have this problem. There is something that is weird. Ref detail is fine, logo. Okay, this is fine. Okay, my logo is okay, should be fine, that's weird. So ref detail. Okay. Just finding why it's not taken in account. I may have forgotten something here. Okay, so it was because of that. Okay, so now it means that I do have just this layer that will store everything that is below. But first of all, you have seen that it makes sometimes, if there is even some information below that you don't want to be taken in account, you either have to move, or another way would have been to make a group. And actually that's a cleanest way, because instead of putting all of this in a group, what I'm going to do is take this, remove it from now. So once again, mistake here, but I'm going to take this and this. I did Control to select both, Control G to create a group that I call reference details. And now I can create the anchor point on the group. So way cleaner in my opinion, rather than create a layer, making a pass-through, etc. Because now I go here in my mask editor where I will fix my mistakes, reference details, normal, and here same thing, reference detail, height, and let's invert that. Okay, so now I have everything in a group like that, and it's way cleaner. And first it's way cleaner, it's easier to organize, and I have just one anchor point. Talking about this, also anchor points, you have to think that as you have one reference, it avoids to duplicate channels and masks for nothing, so you will save a bit of weight as well. So that's something cool. And most important, once again, is, well, you can work at one place. If you have to change the place that has to be influenced, you go there, you go to your reference, you go, for example, I'm going here, logo, I can take another, logo is in normal map, no, height map. I'm going to take another brush, like, let's go something like this, for example. You can paint and it will be taken in account, and this is priceless because here I made a really simple example, but once again, if I want to add some rust on top of that or whatever you want, like maybe if you want to add some glow, something like this, well, you can add everything this way. Another cool thing, so sometimes I'm a bit lost when I'm trying to show this one, is that you can also, I've been using here in mask, but you can also use it in fill layer channels. For example, let's say I have, let's remove everything like this. And once again, let's create a metal. I'm going to do one really quickly. Generally, when I do that, I failed epically, but I'll try not to fail this time. So let's say I have this paint layer. Once again, let's put something like that. Let's increase a bit the roughness. Okay, I have this, and let's put a mask, smart mask on top of that. Leak, dirty, dry. Let's see if it goes well. No. Rust, let me check. Let's use that, rust, dusty, and see how it goes. Not exactly what I want, but let's see. Global balance. Okay, let's say that I'm happy even if I'm not. Okay, so I'm going to play a bit with the material. So now what I want to do is I'm going to add another fill layer, but this fill layer, I just want to change the height map. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to start from this mask. To do that, let's go back here and let's create an anchor point, which this will be my starting point to try to play with the height map above. Let's see if I can do something. So making sure I'm here to place it above, like that. And I'm going to call it damage point, like that. So now if I'm here and I go to the height, you see that even if I am in a material channel, I can call it. So now you see that my height map, if I look at the channel, it's I am in, oops, sorry, roughness, normal, height. My height map is the same mask as we had below here. But what I'm going to do now is to blur it a bit, because once again, if you call something, it's better to modify it. Even if in that case, it could make sense, I could play with that, add a level, like use this level to diminish the effect, etc. But I won't do that. I would first try to do as I did first. So I'm going to Let's think about that. I'm going to go to my fill layer and invert it first. Yes. Sorry, I'm here. So I'm going to invert it, and I'm going to blur it. To do that, add filter, blur. Perfect. So that's what I want, this effect. I want this kind of effect on top of it. So something like that. And now what I'm going to do is to subtract the same reference. So to do this, let's try to be intelligent. Not easy for me, but I'm going to use another fill layer. I'm going to make sure that I just have the height. I'm going to call back this. And right now it's covering everything, but I'm going to try to blend it. So to do that and see, not be lost. Ah no, I can't even do that. So I'm going to go to here and just it should work. It does not work this way. Let me invert. That's weird. I'm on. Oh, okay. Why? Because height, keep alpha, level. No, it should be. Oh, okay, it's my fault because I am on base color. So I have to go on height map. And now we're going to play normal no. Okay, this is not what I want. Replace no. Okay, this is what I want, multiply. So where we do have, I'm going to increase a bit the resolution because, okay, it's better this way. So we see. So now what I wanted to do is like to get this kind of bump just around where the damage here directly. So just by inverting and multiplying and making sure that you change the blending channel, but in the height channel, you can get this kind of effect and bumpy effect here. I think we are, I've seen almost everything. You could add here, for example, once again, say, okay, now that I have that, once again, you could say, let's add a rust on top of that or whatever you want, or something like this, putting on top, black mask, calling back, add fill layer. Once again, don't forget that for black mask, it has to be within a fill layer to be called. So I can use that, I can invert and play a bit with the setting in a way or another. And I could do what I've been doing at first, but this gives you a good example of what we can do with anchor point. So I'm going to share the chat right now because we are really close to the end. If you have questions, this is the right moment, because I think we have seen all the possibilities. Then I would say that it's your creativity that will decide what we can do with anchor point. I hope it's clear. Once again, to summarize, don't forget that the layer stack is read from bottom to top. So when you add an anchor point, the content that will be taken in account has to be created before, which means below in the layer stack. And in the same logic, if you want to call, you can only call an anchor point if it has already been created, which means it's not a timing order, it's a position order. It means, once again, from top to bottom, from bottom to top, meaning bottom is before, top is after. So you have to make sure that your anchor point is lower in your layer stack than the position where you will call it. If for some reason you are in a fill layer and you cannot select a fill layer or fill slot, for example, and you cannot select an anchor point, chances are it's because your current content is above compared to the anchor point. I'm looking at the chat. I don't see any more questions, so let's put my face. Here is my face. Well, that's it for today. I think I'm good. Just Badiro is saying thank you for so much for the tips today. Learning something new, great. Once again, don't forget to use it. Try simple example just to master. Play a bit with it. Don't forget, if you use it also with a mask builder or mask editor, to activate all the options, which means you have to activate first the micro details. You have to make sure that the right channel is selected in once you have plugged the anchor point. That's really important. Thanks again, and we see in 2 weeks. I will interview who I will interview. I forgot. So in France, I'm going to in 2 weeks to interview Louise Melin, who is a great artist from the team. Then I'm going to interview Carol Cornell, and I'm forgetting who I'm. That will be the surprise. But I have someone also that I will interview in English. So thanks again for watching, and see you in 2 weeks. Bye bye.